Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Noel and I'm the Education Advisor here at Thinkful.
Hi, I'm Liz and I'm on the Career Services team here at Thinkful as well.
We wanted to first start out by apologizing that we've had some technical difficulties for the last 10 minutes. We've had an incredible amount of people RSVP for today's session, a total of 198, which is more than Thinkful has ever had to support, but we're glad that we've been able to figure this out. And without further ado, we'll be jumping into a special edition of the Thinkful Web Development Bootcamp info session. Today, we're going to be focusing on the career prep component of the program and the incredible work that my colleague Liz and everyone else here at Thinkful HQ does to get our graduates hired.
Yep, I'll be talking to you guys about the process, how it works, what you can expect, and of course answering questions at the end of the presentation. And I think Noel's going to kick it off, and I will jump in a few slides down the line here and start talking.
That's correct. So I actually prepared some slides for us today that I'm going to go ahead and share now. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box, and we will get started. Alrighty.
Cool. Setting it up. Are we back with?
Yeah, I think we're back to the presentation. So it was brought to our attention that we had lost audio at some point during the actual presentation. We apologize about that. So we'll go ahead and actually just get started and introduce ourselves. As some of you may know from maybe seeing my photo on the website, my name is Noel and I'm the Education Advisor here at Thinkful.
Yep, I'm Liz and I'm on the Career Services team at Thinkful, and hopefully we're not repeating ourselves too much. Okay, good, our audio is coming through.
Yeah, so some of you may have already heard the last maybe 3 minutes of the introduction or so. For some of you that have not heard it, we apologize again for the technical difficulties. We've had a record number of individuals RSVP to tonight's info session. It was a record of 198. So we were just under 200 potential students that were interested in Thinkful's program, and for that we're very grateful. That said, there were some technical difficulties, so we wanted to apologize and start out the session by thanking you all for sitting tight and making sure that you can participate in the session with us now.
Should be good to go.
Yeah, should be good to go, ideally. So for tonight, we wanted to focus on a very special edition of the Thinkful Web Development Bootcamp info session. In the past, we focused more so on the project or the program itself, the curriculum, the mentorship experience, what the program looks like. But tonight, we want to focus on the incredible job that my colleague Liz and everyone else here at Thinkful HQ does to get our graduates hired.
Yeah, we'll talk about career services, what it looks like, what it means, how it works. Certainly also happy to answer any questions that you guys have at the end of the session too. And I believe Noel's going to kick it off first, and then I'll come and jump in a couple slides down.
Yeah, so we'll first talk about the program briefly, and I wanted to touch on what my role as the education advisor here is at Thinkful. I work with individual students to figure out whether one of the programs that we have may be a good option for them based on what their goals are with programming. For some, it's to work with a specific programming language or a specific project. For others, it's to transition fully into a job as a developer. And at Thinkful, we've structured a program specifically for those students. The Web Development Bootcamp is a program for someone who would like to go from a beginner to a position as an employed developer or an engineer. Like everything that we do at Thinkful, it's focused around one-on-one mentorship, and it covers a full stack curriculum that also includes the developer tools and the computer science concepts that you'll need to not only land your first job, but succeed at it. Before we get into the career prep and job placement component of the program, I want to talk about the one-on-one mentorship experience in the full stack curriculum. At Thinkful, one-on-one mentorship means that you're going to have a learning experience that's tailored exactly around who you are as an individual student. We work very hard to pair individual students with mentors for the entire duration of the program, meaning that multiple times a week throughout the entire program, whether you're a flexible student or a full-time student, you're going to be working with a professional engineer who is entirely invested in your learning. They're going to be meeting with you over video chat with screen sharing to pair program with you, to talk about any questions you have about the curriculum, and overall encourage you to move through the program at a pace and with the right determination that'll help you meet your goals. Learning to program is a bit tricky, and for that reason we focus very heavily on one-on-one mentorship. Research has proven many times that one-on-one is the most effective way to learn, and when you're working with such a comprehensive and advanced curriculum like Thinkful's program, it's absolutely essential that you have a professional engineer there to guide you and teach you the best practices that they've only learned through years and years of professional experience. Overall, the mentors that work for the Thinkful program have about 10 years of experience working as professionals in the industry. They're coming in as CTOs of companies, they've founded their own companies, they've also served in academia as professors at leading universities, and overall, they've helped us structure this program and write a curriculum that focuses on full stack JavaScript. Now, I want to explain the reasons that we focus on full stack JavaScript, because there are many different programming languages out there that you can learn. But really, JavaScript and its different frameworks are the most widely used frameworks and libraries and overall language in web development. If you go over to github.com or Stack Overflow, or you look at the leading companies in the San Francisco Bay Area or New York or any other part of the country that has a very healthy and present tech industry, you'll find that Google creating Angular or that Facebook and Instagram creating React are signs that JavaScript is here to stay, that in the coming years it's going to be the language of web development as it has been in the past. For that reason, we want you as a student to be prepared to see those types of roles. We also want you to be prepared as a student to have the understanding and the real understanding of a programming language to learn additional languages once you've graduated. By focusing your entire attention through such an immersive program as a bootcamp on learning one language and its different frameworks, you're going to build a real level of mastery that is on par or unmatched by students who may have focused on things like Ruby on Rails and Python and PHP and didn't really spend enough time learning each language over the course of the 3 or 4 month program that they looked into. Outside of that, as I mentioned, JavaScript is constantly evolving, and for that reason it's important that we teach you the frameworks and libraries that you're going to see out there as developers. Now in the program, you're also going to be focusing your attention on building a number of different projects that you add onto your portfolio. These include at least 4 major capstone projects that are entirely student created. The capstone projects are completely original and unique. They're not clones of Airbnb or Reddit or Pinterest. They're applications that you think of from the very beginning of the product creation cycle, thinking about the service or the solution that that application is going to provide, thinking about it from a user perspective, wireframing it, putting it through an MVP, presenting that MVP to your colleagues, meaning your mentor, your program manager, other students in the Thinkful program, and getting a lot of feedback so that you refactor that MVP into a second, more finalized version. Those are the projects that you'll include in your portfolio, and you'll then present to your employers once you are searching for jobs. That way, you leave a very long-lasting impression on the hiring managers and the software engineers that will be in the room interviewing you. But of course, we know that there is so much more than just the technical skills and creating a portfolio and getting hired as a developer. And for that reason, we've developed a career prep and job placement component to the Thinkful program that has allowed us to really boast such success. As you see at the bottom of your screen now, 93% of our graduates have found full-time jobs as developers or engineers throughout the entire country. And they're working for startups and also larger, more established companies like Google and IBM. We'll be happy to talk about those specific types of companies and roles a little bit later in the presentation, but for now, I wanted to hand it over to my colleague Liz, who can talk about the career prep and the job placement component of the program.
Awesome, thank you so much, Noel. Hi guys, happy to explain career services. There certainly is a team of people here who will be working with you in the program, and I wanted to go over today a little bit about how it works. Every industry is slightly different from another, and when it comes to tech, it's our job to show you what that means. In career services, you're in touch with us basically throughout the course. We meet at the beginning of the program to highlight parts of the curriculum to pay attention to, as well as to find out about where you'll be conducting your job search and what type of company you may want to work for. At this point, we help you parse through what the nuances of that means, and we'll talk about what you can do before you graduate to set you up for a really smooth search. Many of our students do find jobs while they're in the course, even before they graduate, which is always exciting for us. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But during the course itself, I'll go over what the processes are. You're focusing on the technical and learning development, and a part of assessing your knowledge in that is mock interviews. So on the job search, you'll encounter a combination of mock interviews or coding challenges, and we want you to feel empowered for those. So in the curriculum, you'll work through a series of them, each with a different senior engineer to help you not only self-assess, but practice and feel comfortable with the process. On top of that, the suggestions that we talked about in our first meeting come up as goals and points of reflections alongside the mock interviews. In addition, students Slack all the time with questions throughout the course, and we also have several career-based Slack channels for everyone to share their findings and experiences. When it comes time to graduate, we roll up our sleeves. At first, we'll help you with resume review and really tightening up your online presence. We also help you explore and research top companies in your area and strategize your outreach with you, on top of introducing you to both companies we have partnerships with and those that you're interested in. Later on, we're there when you receive an offer. We help you negotiate your salary. In fact, one of our most popular workshops is on salary negotiation with our head of education. So you're not alone through this process, which can be challenging to navigate. So that's a quick overview of what we do. It's pretty comprehensive, and I think one of the most impressive things about it is that you're learning a skill set that you'll use your whole life in every job search you conduct. I'm going to let Noel pick up with the next slide, but we'll be here to answer questions following the presentation.
Yeah, and I think I really want to highlight what you mentioned about not being alone throughout the entire program. Really, from the very beginning of the course, when you first meet with your program manager and your career coach and your mentor, up until you call Liz or one of my colleagues at Thinkful HQ and you let them know that you got the offer and that you're signed and that you're starting in 2 weeks. It's a very exciting moment for everyone at Thinkful HQ because we're so invested in seeing individual students succeed. We're not going to send you to a recruiting fair. We're not going to send you to a career fair that you're going to be competing with other students at. Instead, we do focus entirely one-on-one on the success of our graduates. And a great way for us to highlight the success of our graduates is to be completely transparent about what their outcomes are. The statistics that you see on screen now, like the 93% job placement that I mentioned earlier and the types of job titles that our graduates have, are all components of a report that we publish every month. Every month we review the data that we receive from our students, and we publish a report that has statistics on their outcomes. In early 2016, so January of this year, Thinkful became the first online programming school to publish such a report. And later on in the year, we became the only programming school to have that, or online programming school to have that report audited by a third party that verified that all of the data that you see on there is completely legitimate and that it's accurate. Now, I wanted to note that we published this report for a number of different reasons, really two most important reasons. The first is, as I mentioned, that we want to celebrate the success of our students. We want everyone to know, including potential students, that if you put in the hard work, and that if you're devoted to the program and you succeed through the course, you're going to succeed in finding a new job. Now, the second reason is that really everyone here at Thinkful HQ, from our two co-founders, Daryl Silver and Dan Friedman, to all the mentors that you'll be working with, to everyone at Thinkful HQ themselves, very strongly believes that education requires trust, and that transparency is one of the only ways that we can build that trust. And so by giving you an insider's view into what our graduates see, we can encourage the industry overall to be more transparent about those processes and about their outcomes. So that if you're going or researching a boot camp that's publishing the starting salary on average for every developer in the United States, you ask them, is that the salary that your graduates are seeing, or did you find that on Indeed.com or Glassdoor.com? If you go and see a boot camp that says that they have 99% job placement rate, if they do, that's awesome. I really wonder what their secret is. We want to make sure that we are encouraging students to ask the right type of questions so that when they're considering devoting months out of their life and thousands of dollars into a program that's going to help them transition into a career, they can be confident in that they made the right choice. Now, we love statistics. We publish this report and we update it every single month. So if you check in about 2.5 weeks, you'll see that the numbers are different. The number of students who have graduated will be higher. Salary increase may go up or down, just about a couple of percentage points, and the job placement rate will ideally be higher as well. So if you want to check out that report online, I can definitely link you to that via email or in the chat box. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about it. But I did want to make sure that we also spend some time celebrating the success of individual students that have completed the program. And the 4 alumni that you see on your screen now are perfect examples of that. And I actually think Liz worked with one of these students, or a couple of these students, so I want to make sure that she can share what her experience was working with individuals in the program.
I did, yeah, and everybody's job search is different, and that, of course depends on each individual's background and where they're coming from, what they studied at Thinkful, and of course their location. So I was very lucky, had the chance to work with both Matt Morris here and Christian Solis. Matt being in Dallas, Texas, as you guys can see, his background was in English. He was an English teacher. He went through Thinkful's web development course and is now a developer at RealPage, which is a real estate SaaS in Dallas. Christian had a background in sales, and he went through our course too, and he's a developer now at a startup called CauseForce. And I think what I'd highlight about their job searches and really successful job searches in general is the ability to communicate quickly, to respond to emails, to be persistent if necessary in following up in communications. Those soft skills go a long way, and those are certainly things that we facilitate when we meet with you, when you meet with a career coach. We certainly talk to you about best practices there. So yeah, absolutely. A lot of factors combined for successful job search for these guys.
Yeah, and I also wanted to note that the 4 individuals that you see on your screen now have a very special significance to Thinkful because they are perfect representations of the types of students that go through the Thinkful program. And that none of the 4 students that you see on your screen have a CS degree or a technical background or any level of professional experience with programming. Thinkful is very much still true to the bootcamp experience. Our students and our graduates are making transitions into different careers. So I wanted to note that if you're someone who's a bit nervous or a bit concerned that maybe programming isn't something that you can achieve, or that finding a role as a developer or an engineer is something that is unachievable, that you reconsider that no, it definitely is achievable. You definitely can succeed, as several of the graduates that we've worked with in the past have done so, and as several of the students that we're working with currently will do so in the coming months. Now, because we know that each graduate that we work with is so successful, and we know that our job placement rate is high enough, or so high, we want to make sure that we stand behind our program by letting you know that we're completely confident in your success and that we're willing to offer a money-back guarantee if you're not able to find a job as a developer once you complete it. If after 6 months of completing the program you haven't found a job as a developer or an engineer, we're going to be refunding 100% of your tuition. Now, there are important components to consider regarding the guarantee, but unlike some programs, we're never going to ask you to abide by a super long list of different criteria in order for that guarantee to even apply. Instead, we focus on a small number of important components. Number one, that you as a student are entirely devoted to completing the curriculum, crafting your portfolio, building technical skills, and then actively searching for jobs once the time comes. Outside of that, it's also important that you're at least 21 years old, that you're legally able to work in the United States, and that you speak and write English to a proficient level. The last component of the guarantee is very important because it's important that students are willing to commute or move to a city or are already living in a city with a healthy job market for web development jobs. Now, I know this may be a little bit troubling to some of you, and you may think, man, there must be only a couple of cities around the country that qualify for that. Not at all. We'll never publish a list at Thinkful with 26 or 27 cities and say these are the only cities where web development jobs are happening, and outside of that, sorry, we can't help you. We'll never ask you to apply to jobs in San Francisco and Chicago and tell you that if you get a job in Chicago but you don't live in Illinois, you have to uproot your life and move there. Instead, we work with individual students to figure out if the city that they're looking for jobs in does meet that criteria. We can talk about this in greater detail if you have questions about that towards the end, but essentially we make sure that if we go onto Dice or we go onto AngelList, that the job postings on those sites aren't clouded by recruiters, that the job postings on those sites are relevant to the technologies that you'll learn as part of a Thinkful program. Now remember, the JavaScript is one of the most in-demand, really the most in-demand and in-use language throughout the entire country. So you'll be surprised that really around 35 cities around the entire country satisfy this guarantee, and also abroad. So we can talk about that in greater detail. If you're at all curious about whether your city or where you'll be looking for jobs would meet this criteria, please type it into the chat box or feel free to reach out to me at noel@thinkful.com. Now, I very quickly wanted to spend some time discussing the bootcamp program that we have at Thinkful. As some of you may have already seen online or through one of the emails that I've sent you in the last couple of weeks, the full-time program and the flexible program at Thinkful both offer you the same curriculum and they cover the same concepts. They also offer you the same high level of personal support. And yes, you can expect the same career opportunities and the same job placement guarantee after both programs. Key difference is that they are very different in structure and that they're structured for a different student. On the full-time, you have a very similar experience to an in-person bootcamp. Follow a daily lesson plan of different pair programming sessions and one-on-one sessions with your personal mentor, daily seminar in the morning with a lead instructor who's a professor of computer science, teaches you the concepts that you need to know, and then you spend 50 hours a week over the next 4 months graduating with a very small class size of around 8 to 14 students per cohort. On the flexible side, this is the program for someone who isn't able to quit their job, or they're enrolled part-time in school, or maybe they have family or friends that keep them really busy throughout the entire week, and they're only able to devote a minimum of 25 hours each week to graduate in 6 months. Now I want to make it clear that you do have a lot of support in the flexible program, even if you're going through the program at your own pace. You're meeting with your personal mentor 3 times a week, and you're joining a community of hundreds of different students and mentors who can help you succeed throughout the way. One thing that I wanted to know is that students in both the full-time and the flexible program have something very unique to Thinkful, and that's support from other mentors every day of the week over video chat with screen sharing throughout the entire day. This is in the form of the live Q&A sessions and office hours that you can attend in the course. Very unique to Thinkful's platform, and I don't think I know of any other online learning platform that offers such a high level of support, as opposed to just sending you to the black hole that is sometimes an unmoderated forum, or even Slack. So overall, I also wanted to discuss the scholarships and the different financing options for the program. I'll touch on these lightly now because I don't want to take up too much time boring you with a bunch of numbers, but it is very important that we let you know that we've partnered with 3 incredible organizations in the last several months, Girl Development, Operation Code, and Mother Coders, to offer scholarships for all self-identifying women and U.S. military members and veterans, and that there's no application for these. The scholarship, as well as the financing options, are different in structure for both the flexible and the full-time program, but overall, the flexible program is at $1,500 per month, with the full-time program at $14,000 because it is a 4-month course. And I'd be happy to discuss the differences between the programs in greater detail on a follow-up call with me, also to discuss whether the full-time or the flexible program may be a better option. But for now, I wanted to thank everyone once more for joining us for the Web Development Bootcamp Special Edition info session focused on career prep. I do want to make sure that we have plenty of time to get to any of the questions that you posted onto the chat box. So if you have anything pending, type it in now.
All
and
right.
We're back.
Hello. It looks like we do have a few questions that came in, which
Great.
is great. I'll read them. The first one says, can you say something about your 40% graduation rate?
Definitely.
get into detail there.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the important numbers that you'll see, and I'll actually go back to the slides for this. One of the important details that you see on the Web Development Bootcamp jobs report, which you can access entirely online, is that we do have a graduation rate of 40% for the flexible program. Now, there are a couple of points or important components to discuss regarding this graduation rate. And first and most importantly is that we do report it. We have to report it. In order to be transparent, as I'd mentioned, we have to be honest about every number and every statistic that our graduates can expect. That said, every time that a student withdraws from one of our programs, whether it's the bootcamp program or one of our individual courses, we ask them to fill out a small survey letting us know why they withdrew. Student feedback is, of course, very important to us. We've seen that over the majority of the time, overwhelming number of students have withdrawn from the Web Development Bootcamp because of financial limitations in continuing to pay for the program. In the recent months, we've introduced financing options and scholarships to help address this issue because it is a very important issue. But we wanted to note that, the overwhelming majority of students do withdraw because they're not able to continue paying for the program. So we're hoping that as both new students and current students that are already in the program begin to make use of these options, they'll have a plan in place and will be able to continue the course without having to withdraw. Now, another important component of the graduation rate is that as a self-paced program, there is a higher level of commitment that we expect from students, as opposed to someone who's already quit their job and is committing themselves entirely to a full-time program that's in person or online. Meaning that every step of the program, you will have to be checking in with your mentor, keeping your mentor updated on your life, so that if unfortunately something changes in your schedule or something comes up and you have to withdraw, we know why, and we know if you'll be able to join us again once that clears up. But overall, the main reason that students withdraw from the program is financial limitation in continuing to pay for the program.
Yep. We do have some more questions. I think the next one I could field. It says, I live in Minnesota, MN, but I want to work in San Francisco, just as an example. Will you help me find a job there? So the answer is yes. We do help you on a remote job search, though I would say that being in the city that your job, searching for a job ultimately is a bit easier to do. There are some limitations that you'll find in terms of networking in a city that's across the country, or going to meetup groups, or occasionally showing up for an in-person interview that can be slightly limiting, but it doesn't preclude us from helping you there. So we do in fact do that. I'm working with a student right now who is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she wants to move to Seattle for various reasons, family reasons, and we're helping her with her search there. So yep, we do that.
Yeah, and I wanted to know that it's also not impossible. I personally was not in New York City when I was hired about a year ago now, or about 8 months ago. Yep. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I actually interviewed with Liz on the phone for the first time. So just a funny, or like small
That's
personal
great.
details. So yeah, don't be discouraged, but definitely helpful to be in the city that you're looking for jobs for.
Yeah,
right.
it did not hurt Noelle. Okay, cool. Next question, or more of a comment. Please touch on finding remote employment. So at a junior level, it's a little bit less common to see a remote job listed. They are out there. It was a few months ago, I was working with a student and a remote position popped up for the company Upworthy, and it was a junior position. So I think that's tied a bit more to company culture. Typically, if a company is largely remote, let's say it's a startup or it's a bit progressive culture-wise, they may feel fully comfortable bringing on a team member or a new team member to work remotely. I would say that's a bit less common corporate culture-wise. So I'd love to hear if you're in a particular job market. I'd love to hear what that is, and maybe we could talk about what would make the most sense if you feel like you're not in an area where there are jobs, or why there's a preference for remote. I definitely identify with that, connecting programming with being one of those types of jobs where you can work remotely, and indeed it is. It's just one of those things that at a junior level, it's very helpful to be able to be with a team who's training you on what they're doing. And I think that's the way that a lot of companies look at it, and that's the proclivity there too. But it's certainly one of the neat things about developing, and it's something that you'd work up to.
Yeah, and our program manager mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago that he always encourages students that do have the option of working for a company in person that they do so, because the amount of experience that they're going to build by working with senior engineers is incredible. And that they shouldn't think that because they're taking an entry-level job and they're working for the company in person, that 2 years or 3 years down the line they couldn't work remote. It's definitely doable, and it happens all the time. But yeah, initially you are going to be competing for entry-level jobs that would be remote with a lot of non-entry-level developers who really want to work remote. So the competition is tough, but not impossible.
I'll make a trend prediction and say that we'll probably see more of it upcoming, because a lot of companies are considering different locations for their HQ just for financial reasons. Money goes a lot farther in different cities. I'm working with a company in New Hampshire that's looking for developers, and they're willing to work remotely with someone at a junior level because New Hampshire isn't yet the super big tech hub. It'd be like Silicon Forest or something like that.
It's actually Portland.
That is Portland. You're right. Portland. That it's already taken.
Silicon Maple Forest. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. All right, next up, do you have any information regarding the average salaries for graduates in various areas? I live in the Bay Area is the question. Do you want to take this, or should I?
Let's do a hybrid of this, both.
Okay.
So,
all right.
We do track salary, and we track that very closely of each of our graduates. But one of the reasons that we don't publish individual salaries or an average salary on our site is that we are working with students from all around the country. And the starting salary that one of our graduates in New York City, for example, can expect versus the starting salary of one of our graduates in Durham, North Carolina, or Denver, Colorado, is very different. Mainly because the cost of living is different in different locations, and that's the number one factor that affects the starting salary of developers around the country. Why we report on salary increase percentage is also very important, because it takes into consideration that we have graduates that are going from minimum wage jobs and are getting full-time jobs, maybe making $50,000 a year or $70,000 a year. And we also have some graduates who are coming in as senior level positions in other industries. I know, for example, we have one current student in the program who is working as a senior recruiter for a tech firm. And he's making in the ballpark of around $100,000 a year, which is higher than the starting salary of developers around the entire country, unless you're really, really great and you're in San Francisco. But he is taking a salary cut of about $40,000 over the next couple of months. And that's something that he feels completely comfortable with, because he knows that he loves programming and that he's going to be very happy seeing himself grow into a new career, and probably expecting to make that same amount in the next 5 years. So overall, we report on salary increase percentage for that reason. We want to make sure that we're taking into consideration the fact that there are different salary ranges around the country, and that students are coming in with different situations, so that we're not publishing, a $90,000 starting salary if someone in Durham, North Carolina is interested in enrolling in the program, and that we're also not publishing $50,000 if someone from New York City or Seattle is interested in enrolling in the program.
Yeah, I think the idea of the salary being relative to your location is important too. I could see how one might be attracted to a potentially higher starting salary in New York or San Francisco, and then arrive and discover what the real estate and cost of living is significantly higher. I've also been surprised by larger cities like Dallas, which I wouldn't immediately think for like tech startups, having decently high salaries, considering in the average respectively. So cities can surprise us, and different companies can surprise us too. So it's hard to nail that number down.
Definitely.
All right, more questions. Question about Philadelphia as a job market. I can take it, or you can take it.
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually have a student who is working in the Philadelphia area. He went through our course, he got a job. Philadelphia is definitely a tech city that we would include in our job guarantee, for example. And it's one of those cities that I'm excited to watch because it has the proximity of New York. that kind of lure people outwards from the cost of living, perhaps, into a city that's like more vibrant and up and coming in tech. So I love cities like that where there's a great deal of potential for big tech to happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Similar to Bliffert's comment, it would really be interesting to know what areas of the U.S. can offer competitive salaries and growth opportunities. And yeah, what about Ohio? Competitive salaries, so I guess I'd want a little bit of clarification. Competitive market rate for that city, are we talking about, or are we talking about cities competitive with one another?
Yeah, and I also, while we wait for the response to that question, perhaps, wanted to note that it is also very important to consider that web development is not in demand in Cleveland, Ohio, or Columbus, Ohio. It's just also important to consider that the types of jobs that boot camps are preparing you for, at least the industry giants like Thinkful or Hack Reactor or Maker Square or App Academy, that we're preparing you to learn languages that are very new and modern, that generally tend to gravitate towards the more metropolitan, larger areas like Seattle and Dallas and Chicago. But web development is definitely alive and well in places like Columbus, Ohio, just with different technologies. So don't be discouraged and think that living in Ohio is, a bad place to be in for tech. Definitely is important to consider that you should learn different languages than someone perhaps who is working at a startup in Austin. But the Thinkful program can be, customized to help you out in Columbus, Ohio. We've had several graduates, or a couple of graduates in the program that have learned something like ASP.NET, and a couple of students that are interested in enrolling and are planning to study something like ASP.NET as part of their program so that they're more prepared for the specific job market that they see in Columbus or Cleveland, for example, or Little Rock, Arkansas. So, yeah.
And that's really important to mention is that don't get discouraged if you do see job listings that include technology that maybe you didn't study. Actually, more often than not, companies are interested in you and your ability to solve problems than they are specific tech stack. And there certainly are regional, as Noel was mentioning, there's certainly regional variations in terms of what trends. I don't know why it's like in the air or something. Right. But no, the cool thing about JavaScript is that it's really ubiquitous. Like wherever you have a web app, you have a front end. And so sometimes those back-end languages can fluctuate and vary, and it shouldn't be discouraging if you see those as a part of a job listing.
Yeah, if I can talk about the experience of one of my very close friends. She's currently a developer at Capital One in the San Francisco Bay Area. We went to school together at UC Berkeley. And from what I understand, she originally started working out as a mobile developer there. But because she has such a strong background and understanding of Python, she was able to pick up JavaScript really quickly. And she's now working as a JavaScript developer for Capital One, just having moved into a completely different role. So you ask, why wouldn't Capital One just hire someone who already knows JavaScript instead of teaching them JavaScript? Well, because they knew that she was a great developer and that regardless of what programming language or framework they threw at her, she was going to be able to figure it out and really do great things with it. So again, highlighting what Liz said about the importance of you as an individual applicant, as opposed to making sure that you check off every single item on a list of 20 requirements for an entry-level position.
All right, so I think we probably have time for 2 more questions. Does that make sense? We're running a little bit over. I have a question from Michael Jackson. I may have missed this, and sorry if I did. The Web Dev program, is that front-end, back-end, full stack?
That is a full stack program. So you're going to be learning both front-end and back-end development using JavaScript and its different frameworks. For the front-end, vanilla JavaScript, so JavaScript itself, working with things like jQuery and React. For the backend, focusing on Node.js, MongoDB, or another database, or working with Express as well. So full stack program covering full stack development, also covering computer science concepts like algorithms and data structures, which were actually projects that were written by one of the Thinkful mentors that happens to be a professor of computer science at a university in Wisconsin. He is a tenured professor, has I think 17 years of professional experience as a PhD at the university, so overall, very comprehensive curriculum that you're focusing on.
Awesome. Another question, I'll choose one that's career-oriented because I'm here as a guest. I'm working as a QA and making 80 plus. Is it worth it to switch to a web developer? So it's a good question. There are, we touched upon someone who made a career change and made that sacrifice of going to a lower salary, at least for what we would assume would be temporary. And that would be my prediction as well in terms of going backwards a little bit as a web developer. Personally, professionally, I've made changes, industry changes, and it does affect you. But I think when you look at the long term and the investment that you're making in your new career, it's important to do research on what your trajectory might be. So have a look at job listings in your area for web development. Yeah, and look at positions that are more mid to senior level and see what those qualifications are and see if you can get salary information. We love Glassdoor. It is true to its name. It's very transparent about salaries. Employees, will anonymously submit information about how much they make, and you can make a pretty fair prediction based on your trajectory that you plan out. And also, I know that we work with you in career services as you're finding your first job, but I've also had multiple students come back to me and our head of education, Gray, and ask for advice. In fact, I just got an email from someone who is relocating and they're looking for a new job somewhere else. So, we're happy to step in and give our 2 cents on that too, because it can be complicated, the job search process, obviously, and there are certain nuances that we can help out with. So I hope that is helpful. And if you like, we can talk specifics of your location and what you're thinking about doing. If you shoot us an email, if you shoot Noel an email, he can connect us.
Yeah, that said, we are coming to the end of the info session for the evening. I know that there are a couple of questions that may have gone unanswered, and again, want to apologize about that. But the next step in getting either that question answered or finding out more about the bootcamp program at Thinkful is to definitely set up some time to chat with me or one of my colleagues over the next week. You can definitely send me an email at noel@thinkful.com. That's noel@thinkful.com. And I look forward to speaking with you all individually to figure out if one of the programs that we have here at Thinkful may be a good option for you. Talk to you about what your goals are with programming, what your experience is, what about the tech industry excites you, and really figure out where to go next. So I wanted to thank everyone once more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I love the questions. I know there are always a lot, and we'll get to the others via email. And thanks. Hope to see you guys on your job search.
Have a great one, everyone.
Bye.